Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live show, a daily download for all of your most recent Arsenal news. So make sure you guys are liking this video and subscribing to the channel and getting into the chat. I know I'm like, my dog just licked me. Ugh. But make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and getting into the chat, letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. We are going to be talking about a couple of transfer rumors around Eze, Michael Olise, Nico Williams, and more. So, yeah, like I said, get into the chat. I have a poll going right now as well, asking you guys who you think would be a better signing for Arsenal, Michael Olise or Eze. So let me know through the poll what you think. And we'll go ahead and get into it. There's 60 of you guys in here right now. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'm excited. I'm excited about today's show. I just want to let you guys know as well that to everybody that showed up for the US versus Brazil friendly watch along yesterday, well done you. I super appreciate all of the support. Some of you guys just stopped in just to let me know, like, I'm doing a good job and thank you for the content. And they just wanted to support, which is super nice. I really do appreciate that. I know it was a little bit later for you UK folks. So thank you guys so much. And to everybody that stayed from minute one to, the final whistle, it was just so much fun. We just chit chatted. It was a smaller group, so everybody's comments were getting seen. There were a lot of threads going. We talked about McKinney and Douglas Luiz. We spoke about whether or not Vinny Jr. is the best in the world. Was Alex Song actually good, or was it just the times? It was just so much fun. So super enjoyed that. The next watch along will be on Friday for Germany versus Scotland. It will start at 7:45 p.m. UK time, which is 11:45 a.m. my time. It'll be immediately following the daily download for Friday. So we'll just all go over to TIFO and watch the game together. Super excited to watch, Kai Havertz start for Germany. It's just going to be, the Euros is always super fun. So I'm excited for real international football to be back. If you guys want to join the watch along, there is a link in the description box that you can click on. It will show you all the upcoming watch alongs, and all you have to do is just put in your email and use code Jessica in order to join. So make sure you guys get that done before the next watch along. I'll remind you guys tomorrow during the show as well. So yeah, super excited about that. I'll remind you before the end of this show. Let's see. Your headlines. Let's go ahead and jump into some headlines for today. Chelsea make the first move to sign a £60 million rated Michael Olise. Hope to steal the march on many, many teams. Manchester City United, Arsenal, and Newcastle and Liverpool are all said to be very interested in Michael Olise. Arsenal are also planning on making a move for Nico Williams this month, which, we'll talk about that. I think a lot of us have kind of like cooled on him, but it'll be interesting to see how people feel if we're actually like genuinely linked to him. Juventus are said to be preparing an offer for Kivior, but as I already said, like yesterday, Kivior's expected to stay. But I would imagine some of these rumors are coming out because he's not getting a lot of playing time and he probably wants some. So developments could be there. We talked about Andre Lunin yesterday. Aiden Heaven hopes to get some first team involvement in preseason. We watched a clip of him yesterday and he looked just like Vieira, only he's a defender, which is crazy. And Arsenal have told Alexander Zinchenko and Kieran Tierney that they can find new clubs this summer. So yeah, not a lot, but lots going on still. And I'm sure a lot of things are happening behind closed doors or behind the scenes. I think that there is kind of like a feeling amongst Arsenal fans that like nothing is happening. I do believe things are happening. We're just not privy to that information. Maybe we have to sell first. Maybe we're just trying to figure out exactly what target we're going to go after, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we're waiting to figure out if we can't get the 6/8 that we were looking at. Maybe we look to do something a little bit more advanced. I saw people pining over the idea of bringing in Jamal Musiala. Didn't actually think that was going to be a possibility for us, not in this window anyway. But another player that plays a similar position that has all of that, attacking, now somebody with a lot of skill that can, pick a pass, can dribble, can shoot, score, all those types of things is Eze at Crystal Palace, formerly of Arsenal's academy. And so Arsenal were linked to Eze this morning. And basically, the line reads that this is coming from Pete Graves TV from Sky Sports, saying there's a lot of Premier League clubs with interest in Eze. Spurs, I know Spurs have been interested in him for a while. Manchester United, he said, someone said to me, Manchester City. I've heard Newcastle. I've heard Arsenal. All of the top clubs you would think would be interested. And so, like, this is the type of player that I feel like a lot of Arsenal fans would be more excited about than like a Douglas Luiz or a Zubamendi, somebody that plays in a more like defensive pivot role. Who's calling me? Okay, I don't know why you're calling me. But I think that he would be more exciting than somebody that plays in that more defensive pivot role because he's more of an attacker. He can also play on the wing, which he's done that for England very recently. So it's kind of like killing two birds with one stone. I guess my only concern about something like this would be if Eze could play off of the wing and in that like left 8 role for Arsenal, then why can't Emile Smith-Rowe? Because that's what he basically was doing. But that's a side conversation. Eze is a very good player. We've seen him like grow over the years through the championship and now at Crystal Palace. He's definitely due a big move and probably will get one either this summer or the next. I think I'd be a little disappointed if Crystal Palace's little core was broken apart so quickly. Just because they've been a super exciting group of players to watch. Mateta, Olise, Eze all together has been really fun. Wharton, and so for me, I'm always thinking about like, of course, one of the first fixtures I always look at when the schedule comes out is Crystal Palace away. I just think in general, no matter what form they're in, no matter who they have on their team, it seems to be a very difficult fixture for Arsenal, but it's also a difficult fixture for our rivals. And so having that core group at Crystal Palace will help, our rivals drop points. And so if all these teams that get a nice little core together get broken apart really quickly, I know that that's what the bigger teams want to happen. But from a competitive standpoint, you kind of want there to be some teams that can actually nick points off of your rivals. And I think Crystal Palace would be a little bit disappointed because I do believe both Olise and Eze have release clauses. And so those can be triggered at any time, I believe. The interesting one about Michael Olise's is that his release clause can only be triggered by a Champions League team, which would mean that whoever is outside of Champions League would probably need to pay over the odds to get him. And that's why I do feel like Chelsea are making a move now because, he's going to want his future sorted because he's going to be going to the Olympics with Thierry Henry and, the French national team that's going to the Olympics. And so he's going to want his future sorted before he does that. And so Chelsea are obviously going to overpay to get Olise over a Champions League team. I don't actually believe that like Liverpool, Arsenal are going to really go after Olise. I just don't see it unless Salah goes for Liverpool. I just feel like we're kind of in the back, kind of looking to see how this is going. But like the teams that I feel like will be more desperate to make this happen would be maybe Newcastle, Manchester United, and Chelsea, because none of them actually have a really good right winger. They all kind of have options there. They have players that they can play there, or players that they bought for huge fees that haven't worked out. But we know that Manchester United are going to want to move on from Anthony. We know that Newcastle are going to want to replace Almiron. We know Chelsea are going to just buy as many young players, talented young players that they can possibly buy. And they probably want to move Cole Palmer into a more central position. So instead of, trusting Madueke, they're not going to do that. They're just going to buy another player on top of that. And so those are the teams that I think would be more interested in Elise. I do see Arsenal being, out of the two, more interested in Eze because he actually fills the positions in which Arsenal need to be focusing on. If we're not going to get a 6/8, it would be nice to get another creative player to pop into that position to allow Odegaard a little bit more of, like, to let him play a deeper role. And that player kind of plays in the box and makes those runs and breaks teams down. Somebody like that can do that role and also exist out wide. Eze would probably play really well with somebody like Trossard, who wants to come more central and get into the box. Eze could do those overlaps from midfield to provide a little bit more of that width. And then somebody like Trossard could go more central and play more like a striker. So he would allow a lot of like rotation and fluidity and, whatever else you're looking for on the left-hand side, a lot more of that trickery and that dribbling and that kind of stuff, athleticism on that side. So if Arsenal were looking at either one of them, I do believe it would be Eze. But are Arsenal going to completely like divert from what they were originally doing? I don't know. Arsenal have a fluid transfer policy, but do I feel in my heart that they're going to do something like this? It just feels so un-Arsenal-like to bring in a player like this. I think we're really kind of conservative when it comes to attacking players. We like players that are in like a box. We like players that are we don't really go for these types of like need freedom to be good. A Pep would go after somebody like Eze and just strip him of all of his powers. Exactly what he did to Jack Grealish. Arteta doesn't even go for those players at all. He doesn't even try to strip them of all their juice. So it's a really interesting link that I do feel like would make Arsenal fans like super excited because Eze was brilliant this season. He really was. Once they got their new Glasner and they got the new coach in, you really started to see, like, even at the back end of last season, you started to see the real quality of Olise and Eze and what they can bring to the table. Will Arsenal move on a player like this? I don't know. Would I be excited if they did? Yeah, because I think just having more talented players in your team is going to work. Would I prefer a different type of midfielder? Probably, but he's a really good player. Like he is. He's a really good player. And, if you were to bring in Eze, and, a winger and a defender, I don't think I'd be that upset depending on who the other players were. Eze is just a really, really good player. MM says, Mikel values out of possession more. Don't see it. Jagoon says, Eze would be great. Otani says, Palace could have a really balanced midfield next season. Decore, Wharton, and Eze. What happened to Decore? Did he get injured or something? Because I feel like I didn't see him a lot towards like the end of the season. So, but that is a good midfield. It's good midfield. Hey Jess, Matt says, hey Jess, does Eze play on either wing? I think he plays on the left wing. I don't think he will play or can play on the right, which, as much as I know people are like, we really have to get like the right-sided player. I get that because it's like Saka needs rest, but I do feel like the left-hand side needs a little bit of work. And whether that's at left wing or left center mid and left back, all three, that left-hand side to me needs a little bit of surgery. The levels need to go up a little bit. So yeah. Ilmatic says, Nico Williams already said he's only open to going to Barcelona. I saw that from one of those, like, how, there's a lot of the papers and the journalists that are like Barcelona based or Spain based. They kind of write from the voice of always like propping up like Barcelona and all this kind of stuff. I wouldn't believe Nico Williams is only going to Barcelona. Like I wouldn't really believe that until I actually saw it happening or I heard him say it from his lips. Like those aggregators and journalists that cover Barcelona are more like PR than actual like journalism, if that makes sense. If Barcelona doesn't have the money, or, they end up going for somebody else, or they end up not really looking at that position, then he won't go there. Maybe he will like look at something else. So yeah, I do. I mean, it wasn't too long ago where people were saying that Sesko had said yes to us, and then he just stayed. So until I see him say it, I don't believe anything, to be honest. So yeah. Gold Coast Black Star says big ups to you, Jess. Thank you so much. Elijah Talks Football said yesterday's stream was amazing and I was glad to be a part of it. Thank you so much. I remember Elijah was in the comments and we were having a good old time. You guys need to join the next one. Jay Walker says, who would be a better signing for Arsenal? Jean-Philippe Mateta. To be honest, like Mateta looks like the streets won't forget this type of striker. Like he just gives the vibe, the bald head, tall, good celebration. Really has come into form. But let's be serious. Like he would be last on my list of the three if I had to choose one. I know that it's like we need a striker, but like it's not Mateta, is it? Cedillo says we need to sign a top 8. Is Eze not a top player? Like to you guys, what is the level that he's at for you guys? I guess that would be a question for you guys would be, what level is Eze at for you? Is he kind of like would be really good on a team outside of the top 6 and only that is at his level? Could he play for a top 6 team? Is he a title challenging type of player? Is he a rotational option in a title challenging team? Is he actually somebody that could become like a world-class elite player, or is he already that? How do you rank Eze? Because I do feel like throughout the season, people were gagging about this dude. But then when we talk about him coming to Arsenal, there's almost like I'm not sure. And it's like, do we think he's good or not? Do we think he's amazing or not? Like, what is it? Shamaria says Eze is good. He would cook for us. Justice J says Eze is good, but not tall enough. Sorry. How tall is Eze? I know you want a basketball team, but I would say we have a lot of tall players. So it's it wouldn't be the end of the world if he was, 5'10" or something like that. Eze is not 5'8". There's no way. They haven't updated that. There's no way. Eze is 5'8"? Nah, no. That would mean Saka is taller than him. Yeah, he's 5'10". I was like, there's just no way that that's real. But him being shorter than Olise is a little really? But yeah, it says 5'10" here. 25 years old, which honestly is older than I thought he was. He must have just turned 25. He must have just turned 25. That's crazy. I guess he has been around for a while, but that would mean that he's in Nketiah's age bracket. Let's see. I'm just looking up some more stuff on him. He's about to turn 26 on June 29th. He's 25 and he's 20. He's 25 and 350 days old. So he's about to turn 26. Is that real or is this wrong? Because 26? Eze. What? He is. He's 25 and he's going to be 26. That's honestly, that's the biggest, wow, he's actually a lot older than I thought. Because Olise is he's only 22. So yeah, it's time to get a move on, buddy. It's time for a big move. You're in your prime. You're already there. Martel says Eze said he cried when he was cut by Arsenal. That was the day before his release clause was made public. His dream is to play at the carpet from his own mouth. And listen, some people would say that's when your villain arc starts, when you're cut from a team that you always wanted to play for. But it could also be motivation to get back to that place. And if we wanted Eze, I don't think there's no doubt in my mind that he would come to us. I just don't get the feeling that it's you cut me, so we're done. I just don't get that feeling from him. Whether or not we would go for a player like this, just because we already have Emil, and I know Eze and Emil aren't exactly the same, but I do kind of put them in that same category. Can play on the wing, can play number 10, play kind of like left 8, tricky ball carrier, needs like the creative freedom, that kind of stuff, a vibey player. Um, Arteta hasn't really done well with the vibey players. Like, they tend to not get into that midfield. So, are we going to move to a Eze? Now, why are you falling off? Why are you falling off, huh? Come on now. Are we going to go to a Eze, Odegaard, Rice midfields? That just feels like so not Mikel. So not Mikel. So yeah, like, I would be very surprised, but you could make an argument and say, like, well, if we've already got Jorginho and he can do that more 6/8 role, we know he's going to be not 6/8, but he can play in the pivot and allow Declan Rice to play 8. Then would it be a better use of funds to go after somebody that's a little bit more creative, since it feels like Emil and like Fabio Vieira are a little bit more on the outside, so you can make that argument that you need to bring somebody in a little bit more, creative. But every time that we play with Odegaard plus another more creative player and Declan Rice in the 6 or anybody in the 6, that midfield just doesn't feel right. It just feels like we're missing something, So like I said before, it's not my ideal midfield. I do think that it'll feel weird, and it won't quite work, unless Arteta changes the way that he wants to play. And Arteta doesn't change the way he wants to play. He kind of doubles down, triples down, on what he's already doing. Shamaria says, I can really see us getting a Palace player this summer, whether it's Wharton, Eze, or even Gahey. My choice would be Wharton, if I'm honest. Like, if I had to choose one of those Crystal Palace players that could potentially be, in that 50 to 60 million pound mark, that are available, I would get Wharton. I just feel like he solves more of our problems in midfield than the other two. Elise doesn't solve it at all. Having him and Saka stacked up on one side when Arteta's never going to drop Saka. As much as I know that we're like, we need right wing cover, I still feel like Saka is going to play every minute of every game. Like, I do not buy this idea that we're going to buy some other top right winger. Like, you need to bring in somebody that's almost like okay with not starting. Like, unless Arteta becomes a completely different manager, he kind of has like a set 11, and he brings in backups. Like, unless he's like, it's like we are struggling, those other players don't get a look in. So Arteta would have to become a completely different manager than what he has been, for me to believe that he's going to stack up Olise and Saka on one side. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Eze would bring vibes and give, Arsenal fans a little bit more like of that, or we're really like doing the more creative thing. But is that midfield as balanced as it could be? Wharton, right next to Declan Rice, does the things that Declan doesn't do, but he needs Declan next to him in order to like have that defensive solidity. He makes just so much more sense. I would get Wharton. I said it yesterday. I'm saying it again. Before he becomes 100 million pounds, I would get him. I would get him over João Neves. And the reason why is because I've already seen him in the Premier League. He's played English football. The championship is a very difficult league to play in. I actually think the championship is a good place to shop. I know that Arsenal will never shop in the championship because we have to see them in the Premier League first. But I think that the championship is actually a better place to shop than some of these other leagues, because English football is hard to adapt to for some players, and playing in the championship is a dogfight. Like, it really is. So I already seen him in English football, already seen him in the Premier League, and would cost probably at least 40 million less than João Neves, who I've never seen in the Premier League. So, for me, it would be Wharton. Makes the most sense. Would I get Eze if that's what was offered? Absolutely. More ballers, better team, period. More, if you just stack talent, you'll get better. Like, in general, with a good coach, you're, even with like players that aren't perfect for the system, you'll make it work. Elise is the only one that doesn't make any sense to me. Foxy says only real weakness in Eze's game is off the ball, a bit lazy, doesn't work hard enough defensively, which is needed at times at Palace. I mean, I guess this is like the the argument that, you know, Arsenal fans have quite often about the way that we play. Should, you know, these maverick type players, these creative players, these guys that get you the goals and assists, those types of players that need that freedom to make their game work, should they be required to do these shifts, you know, off the ball? Arsenal's strength is the team. Everybody works hard. Nobody's better than anybody else. All 11 men behind the ball, all that. Like, that's who Arsenal are right now. But one of the conversations that we've had quite a bit is, are they doing too much? Are we allowing our stars to be stars? Are we making them do like fullback shifts? Should we allow like the likes of Saka and Martinelli and Odegaard, or, you know, an Eze, to just have a little bit more freedom so that we leave them up front? They're there for the counterattacks and they're not killing themselves defensively and are not able to like complete the pass when we actually get the chance. One thing that, there's a account on Twitter, I forget what the guy's name is, but I haven't agreed with like anything this guy has ever said, not one time, except for this time. Which is kind of like that meme where it's like, oh my gosh, the guy that you hate actually is right about something. But he said, like, when we played against City, I think it was, we did so well defensively, but Odegaard and our other attackers looked almost like shot when they actually got the ball, that they were like making uncharacteristically like poor mistakes in possession once they got the ball, because they were doing so much defensive work. And I was like, you know, it doesn't just apply to Odegaard. I think that applies to everyone, where if you're defending so much that your brain is like shut off from what you're trying to do attacking wise, and then your body just is also like worn down from all the defensive work. So once you get the chance to go forward, you don't have the legs to do it. And so I would like to see, just in general, whether we have Eze or not, maybe Arteta to give some of our more attacking players a little bit more license to, like, when we're defending, can we just leave them up? Like, I know it's going to put more stress on our defenders, but that's what they're there for. And if our defenders are not good enough to defend with mostly just the defense back there, then they're not as good as we think they are. They should be able to be exposed and be able to do a little bit more of, like, I don't want them to be fully on like Virgil van Dijk, like Allison on the ropes, you know, just having to do like Superman things. But I do feel like every once in a while we should be able to leave our attackers up. If we don't do that, then like those Eze type players, I don't think they'll actually work for us, because they'll be asked to do so much defensive work, and that's just not their game. That's why I don't think we'll ever get Leao. As good as he is, like, he's one of those types of players you just leave him up. His fullback is dying because he's not going to help. And that's just the game, you know, that you have to play with him. So I don't know if Arteta is going to manage that a little bit different, but, you know, I like Eze a lot, and I would love for us to have a little bit more freedom. Doesn't mean we have to be fully, you know, without any defensive structure, but you could give them just a tiny bit more freedom. So yeah. Fire FNAF says, I'm all for the vibes, not suiting United, to be honest. I say to hell with everything else, otherwise seen. Okay. Boy says, we got Keown back way back when, but that was an exception that proves the rule. What are you talking about? We didn't get Gnabry when he was expedient, nor Benacer or Malin. Probably a few more beyond. Elise would be useful for us. I guess we're talking about the academy. Mr. Happy says, from what I've seen Eze is an 8. He's a 10 that can play left wing, but he doesn't stretch the play. Kudus or Rafinha would be my choice. Rafinha had his chance. Like, it ain't no get back. Like, you're not coming back. But I kind of get like the Rafinha shouts. Kudus is just going to be way too expensive, and I just can't see it. But yeah. Let's see. Everybody's saying, yeah, Jordan. What did Jordan say? Jordan Davis says, Jess, Wharton is what we thought Patino would be. Uncomfortable conversations. It's not uncomfortable for me. I think Patino looks like a good player, but maybe not for our level. Sell 15 million, 20 million, sell, you know. We were actually having this conversation yesterday on the watch along, because Balogun was out there, and I was like, do you see this? Do we miss him? No, we don't. We sold him for 30 million, and he's done absolutely nothing at Monaco. Hasn't even nailed down the number 9 for the US men, which is like, I could do it. you know? So my whole thing is just like these players that we have all these great hopes and dreams for that are coming from the academy, 9 times out of 10, they don't make it. Eze is one of those ones that come back up where all the context is removed about him being a late bloomer. He's 26, and we're just now talking about Eze being somebody that could play for a top team. So if it took him this late to get to that point, was it that Arsenal just missed the talent and couldn't see it? Or was it that he just wasn't good enough at that time? And he was a late bloomer and he did need more development at a lower level, you know? So I don't believe every single one of these guys should be a part of our plan. And I actually don't think our academy produces the best talent. I think City and Chelsea are way far ahead of us in terms of developing top quality talent. I said it. Yeah, I said it. I said it. I think our academy is good, and we have probably like 1 or 2 gems in there right now that could actually come into our first team and be a Saka, but we're not making like Palmers and Fodens and Oscar Bobses and those, we're not making those, we're not. So yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. Let's see. Elijah says Michael Elise is understood to be open to Chelsea move. I wouldn't be surprised if he went there. I think the money, the Chelsea name, all that kind of stuff, playing for like this young, new, whatever, is going to really be attractive to a lot of players. I always felt like Olise would end up at Chelsea. The biggest, I think, blow for like Olise going to Chelsea is Man United. As they've actually been doing the groundwork a lot longer than Chelsea. But of course, Chelsea jumps in, gets really aggressive, offers higher wages, higher agent fees, all that kind of stuff to get them quickly. And I mean, what's a better project, the Chelsea project or the Man United project? Chelsea, probably that project looks a lot more. You can see more what they're trying to do versus like Man United is giving very much like, yeah, we frauded our way into a trophy, but like if we hadn't won that, nobody would want to come to us. Like, let's be serious, So I do think that I can see that Madueke going to Newcastle makes sense because he's not going to play over any of them. He's not going to play over Olise. And if Olise is not playing there, you have to think of all the players that Chelsea have bought. They bought Nkunku. They're going to buy a striker. They have a lot of players around. So he probably wants to play. Going to Newcastle would not be a bad place for him to land, by the way. He can go play with Anthony Gordon and Isak. It's just not a bad place for him to land. So I could definitely see like a little trickle down effect for that. But who are Newcastle gonna sell in order to get, Madueke in? Don't Newcastle have to sell? Otani says Eze was rated at QPR at 20. Question at the time was, could he play that way in the Premier League? We now know yes. Yo-Yo says the greatest sign of a good academy is the money you make off your players, not necessarily whether they become present stars, because the academy serves the first team in multiple ways. The faster I feel like Arsenal fans wrap their heads around that, the less upset they'll be when they see these names leave or, we sell this guy or whatever. I do think that because we went through such a bad time, that we ended up with so many players from the academy in our first team because we had such bad like senior players that we had to utilize the youth in order to get something out of to get results. Once we got to a point where we had kind of switched things over, it just you would never have that many academy players in your first team. It was a means to an end, but most top teams only have like one or two that break through. That's no different than, Real Madrid. That's no different like to anybody. The idea that every one of them needs to make it and that selling them is not a good thing. The problem is that we probably have too many of them leaving for free right now. And that's the problem that we have. We need to figure out a way to get them on loans quicker so that they could do a Balogun. Balogun is the perfect example of what we should be doing all day, every day. Send them on loan, make them look good, get a big fee, move on with our lives. We should be doing so much more of that. Um, that's kind of my feeling on it anyway. Justa J says Chelsea tried to get Elise last year, but I don't think that move makes sense for them now with Madueke and Palmer. I mean, with Chelsea, it's not really about do we have the space for the player? Does it make sense? It's we want him. He's the best thing. He's the most hyped thing right now in the league. Let's get him. So they will sacrifice Madueke for Olise because they know that there'll be somebody else like a Newcastle ready to give them 50 million for Madueke. So Chelsea have that like reputation in the league that players that they like sell will do well at other Premier League teams. So they're under no threat. Like they know that even if Madueke's sitting there, he'll sit there or they'll sell. And they won't have any problem selling him. Somebody will take him, you know? So I think that's just kind of like it may not make sense for them, but they just know they'll sell. Like that's just who they are. And Arsenal, as much as like we're in a better place than they are in terms of our first team and where we're finishing in the league, I still think they're in front of us in terms of their academy and how they sell players and how they have that respect from other Premier League teams where Chelsea doesn't get into like little spats and shit with, Premier League teams wanting to offer pennies. Premier League teams are going to offer 50 million for Conor Gallagher and they're going to have a bidding war. So, we need to get to that point, and it's going to take a while because we've neglected it for so long. Also, like obviously Chelsea do things at the really like youth grassroots level in order to get players, the best players and stuff. We all know that too, but in general, we need to be better. Nostradamus says Cozier Dewberry contract runs out at the 30th. Newcastle heavily linked as our Dortmund. I think he's going to go. Cozier Dewberry, and there's not a clear path with Nweri coming in. There's no clear path for him into the first team because you have Saka. Then Arteta's going to prioritize like Jesus, and then you have to hope that Reece Nelson goes. And then you have Nweri that will probably take some of those minutes as well. Because in order for him to be involved in the first team, he'll have to be able to, I think, cover multiple positions. So, that's all I can really, see happening with him. And it's just like unfortunate that he would leave for free because that's like the worst possible scenario. Just today says, does Partey want to go to Saudi? Probably not. Probably not, but have to figure out a way to offload him this summer for sure. So yeah, but I would take Eze just off of the fact that I think he's a good player. But if I had my choice of Crystal Palace players, it would probably be Wharton. So he just feels like a very quality player, like very quality. That will be 100 million next summer. So get him now for 60, which is probably overpaying, but it's fine. So with the poll right now, there is 58% of you guys saying Eze and 42% of you guys saying Olise. So I wanted to let you guys know as well that starting Monday, I will no longer be. So basically, like I try to give you guys some like tidbits on like what happens with the channel behind the scenes. So we won't be on StreamYard anymore. We'll be on a new program called Reacto. And Reacto works with some of the biggest companies, football companies in the world, other like sports companies as well. But they work with AFTV. They also work with Sky Sports and, Man City. And I'll be working with them to create like a better like show for you guys. So what you guys will care about is the look will be better, everything will be top tier. But what you guys are going to care about is you guys are going to have the ability to send me video messages. So you guys will be able to send in your thoughts. So during this time, so the daily show will happen as it usually happens. But when we get to the end of the show, I will be able to play your video messages on the screen live so people can hear what you have to say and I get to hear what you want to say as well. What I like about this is that you guys don't have to have the pressure of being live. You don't have to have the pressure of being live. You also don't have to have the pressure of feeling like you need to be here in order to get your thoughts across. So you will know, what the show is about, or you'll have something that you want to get off your chest. Basically, it's going to be the opportunity for you to ask a question or put your take out there, and I'll give you my opinion on it in the comments as well. But because it's a recorded video message, it could be 45 seconds. You can re-record a couple of times if you feel like you made a mistake, but there's no pressure to be here when the show is happening. You can always rewatch it and then find where you came up, and you don't have to feel pressure to be live. And I think what this is going to do is it's going to make it a lot more interactive between you and I. And for those of you guys that really want to get like your thoughts and feelings out there, not just in the comments, but you want to actually get on video and put your take out there, you guys will have that opportunity. And so that's going to be starting on Monday through Reacto. That's what you guys care about. What I care about is the look and the feel, and all of that will be so much more premium for you guys. This daily show, the after games, all that kind of stuff. So, but for those of you guys that like to blab, boy, who else? Keenan, Just a J, who else? Mr. Happy, Nuances of Fate, Yo-Yo, Nostradamus. Who else is always in here? Foxy, Blaze, all of y'all that love to blab, this is for y'all, because I want to hear what you guys have to say. I don't even think you're like, for real, your camera doesn't have to be on. All you have to do is just press record, and then your video, you can send in videos. So I'll be able to send you guys the link. I'll send you guys the link will be always in the description and always pinned in the chat starting tomorrow. And then I'll actually be able to put them up on Monday. So, and this could be really interesting in regards to like the window and stuff like that, because if you guys want to be able to ask questions or get your thoughts out there, like actually like talking, you guys will be able to do that, which is just, it's so much better than doing it just like live all the time. Cause I know some people get like stage fright and they don't say actually what they want to say. So being able to record it a couple of times will really help. So I think you guys are going to really like it, and it's going to upgrade this whole feel of the show so that, every Monday through Thursday when Jess comes on, you might just see your video pop up and I will respond on air to what you're saying. And everybody in the comments as well, because like, listen, everybody in this comment section has an opinion, okay? And that's why I love this community, because we are some talkers, man. We are some blabbers. I love it. Nuances of Fate says Arteta has neglected the academy. We will lose most of our youngsters. It is what it is. Do you actually think he neglected them? Like, or maybe they're just not as good as we think they are. I guess that's always like my question, and how I want to, like, I do think that Arteta knows mostly what he's doing. But do I actually believe that there's a Saka in there somewhere, that we haven't uncovered? And if it's the case that they're not good enough to come into the first team, why aren't they being given good loans? And so that's actually Per's job, I think, is to get them on decent loans and start moving them around a lot quicker. So I don't know if it's just an Arteta thing. I think, it always feels like the buck stops with him. And but I just don't think there's that much amazing talent in the academy. And beyond like Nweri and maybe MLS, I don't really see the players that would be like needing to be in the first team. I think where my gripe really comes in is not giving them loans soon enough. I think they stick around in the academy too long, and the loans that they're given are just shit. Some of the loans that they're given are just like, get them to the championship. That's where the Premier League teams, those good Premier League teams, are going to buy them from. They're not going to buy them from whatever place. Like, get them to the championship. So that's more like my thing. Jordan Hill says, how long do we get on the voice recording? It's 45 seconds. So that may not seem like a lot of time, but it is. It is. And it's gonna always be available for you guys to give your hottest of hot takes, for you guys to give your thoughts on whatever transfer, to ask a question, as long as it's respectful and it's cool, like you guys will be able to, say what you want, and so when we get to the back end of the show, those last like 15 minutes will be just me going through those videos. And so yeah, it's honestly, it's gonna be so cool. Like I've always wanted it to be a lot more interactive. I used to love doing the phone ins. It's just so hard to get people on because they get stage fright. You either get people that are stage fright or people that get like word vomit because they're just like, they're not used to being on. This is just a cleaner way of doing it. So yeah, Jordan says that is a lot of time. It is 45 seconds. You can say a lot of stuff. Otani says Olise is impossible in my opinion. Wide playmaker who inverts from right wing. He's not joining to compete with Saka and play left wing. I honestly, I don't believe so either. I don't think so either. Like Olise just doesn't ever felt we have right wing sorted. What we're like, we need a midfielder and probably somebody that can play on both sides. He can't play on both sides, so he doesn't really fit what we need. And I know it's kind of like, well, just buy him anyway. He's talented. But we don't operate in that way. I feel like some clubs just buy the talent and try to make it work. We don't really do things that way. So we're a lot more calculated with the things that we do. I just don't see Olise as really being like a true option for us. But I do see Eze being more like something that we would want. And then like we should really be looking at Wharton. I just feel like in a year, we're going to be so devastated that we didn't get him. We just are, because you will need to replace Jorginho, and to have somebody that already plays with Declan Rice, will know how to work with him already, that does the things that Declan doesn't do, and vice versa, would be so useful for Arsenal. And this is just where I wish we would buy early instead of waiting until he's completely out of our reach and somebody like Newcastle is buying him and they priced us out of the deal. I would love for us to do something early for once. I am seeing the Newcastle have identified Madueke and Michael Olise as potential replacements for Almiron, which, it could just be that simple, that Chelsea get Olise and Madueke goes to Newcastle. If I was Newcastle, though, I would push for Olise and leave Chelsea with Madueke. That's what I would do. Nico Williams' release clause is 58 million. So Arsenal, again, are interested in him. So yeah, we will see, what happens with that. But it's about 50 million pounds for his release clause, which isn't that bad. It's just a matter of are Barcelona super interested? Is he so desperate to go there that he won't come here? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so let's see. People are pulling up old Eze tweets now, which is hilarious. We're just so, as soon as we're linked with somebody, it's like, they're coming. It's like, just relax, calma. There are a lot of teams that are interested in him. Lots of teams that are interested in him, that probably feel like they need him a little bit more than we do. So let's see what we do. I think also the mystery of not knowing who our targets are, what we're actually doing, is making Arsenal fans a little antsy. And it makes me a little too. Like, okay, so what are we doing? Are we going to do the right things? But it's really like the Euros are there, Copa America's there. Like, we have to be a little bit more patient. It's not going to be like last summer. And we could still do some good things. Foxy says either one of Madweki or Olise, and I'm happy with upgrade on what we have. Yo-Yo says the club, we're looking at Kudus who can play centrally and wide. Eze is a fair comp, if not explosive or rugged. World Boss says, hey, Jess, hope you're well. I am well. Thank you so much. Keenan said, we have been focusing on paying big money for striker or CM. What about paying $100 million for Rodrigo? He can play on both flanks and is one of the few upgrades on Martinelli. I would take Rodrigo in a second. I would not think about it. I would not hesitate. If he became available, I would say whatever other plans we have, pause, just do that, because he's the type of player that, like you said, he's an actual upgrade on Martinelli. As much as Martinelli fans are, gonna, and I'm a Martinelli fan too, like he's our player, but like, as much as people want to like really like prop Martinelli up, Rodrigo is like a fabulous player. I would take him in a second. Nostradamus says, I love keeping our transfers in-house, brings back the old school vibes. Jessica J says the summer is going to move like it did back in 2021. It starts slow, then explodes at the end. Yo-Yo says, I'm calm. It's clear what Edu and Arteta have to do, as it's been the same thing for summers now. That is true. We've been asking for these same things over and over and over and over and over again. Cannon says Eze will only come if he's assured of first team football. I actually, as much as this would probably pain some Arsenal fans, I can really see Eze at Spurs. I just feel like, it's not like a super competitive team in terms of like the top. But they're fighting for Europe type, top four-ish type. Like I think they're going to be in Europa. Ange plays a very open game, and I think Spurs also saw the limitations of James Maddison this season, where he's a little bit on the older side, he's injury prone, and they can't rely upon him as their only creative outlet. And so I can really see them going after Eze. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for them. And yes, I do think he'd go there even if he left us. Otani says Olise is not joining to help Arsenal solve right wing depth. His aim is to nail down France right wing for the next decade. Walks into start as next club. I think all of us kind of agree with that. That as good as he is, and as much as fun as it would be to have him and Saka, I could really just see him going to Newcastle, Man United, or Chelsea, just because they have that open right wing spot. And honestly, I wouldn't feel that devastated if we missed out on Olise, because we have Saka. Like, I don't feel any type of ways. I would be devastated if we missed out on Morton. I just think he's going to be the one that one midfielder that we already know will be Premier League proven. We already know it. Buy him now before Pep gets his grubby fingers on him, or United get their grubby fingers on him. Like, he's so good. So yeah. Keenan says, I just pray Edu and Arteta have one sleeper pick that nobody sees coming. Those are my favorite signings. Same. Bring that back. Bring back those like out of nowhere. Like when we got linked to Timber, I was just like, oh, like that was the best, because like obviously the Declan Rice signing was not a secret. So we knew from before the season even ended that that's who we were going for. So it wasn't that exciting like it was once we finally got him. The £100 million Ornstein bomb was great, but nothing hit like the Timber. Like, we're already like, it's almost done. That was brilliant. I loved it. Nobody could come in. Man United fans were devastated about it. It was just great. It was perfect. I want more of those. But yeah, we'll see what Arsenal does. But Eze feels like a better signing for other teams. But let's see what Arsenal do. Nico Williams, maybe doesn't want to leave Spain, which I can kind of see. Maybe the Spanish players feel like they have to be in Spain in order to stay on that team. or they just have dreams of always playing for Barcelona, which makes a lot of sense. So that's fine. We're going to get out of here. I don't want the show to be too long because we've been going way too long recently. And just like the end of the show is just us just devolving into nonsense. But Germany versus Scotland watch along tomorrow, immediately following the daily download. It's going to start at 7:45 p.m. UK time. So make sure you guys click on the link in the description so that you guys can go ahead and join now or RSVP for the watch along. The code is Jessica. It's my name, Jessica. It will ask you for your email, but don't worry, it's not a scam or anything. It's just so that they can send you notifications when I'm doing the watch along. And so you can actually sign up to be a member of the She Knows Arsenal community on TIFO, which is amazing. So make sure you guys do that before you guys get out of here. And remember that starting next week, phone calls, like actual like video calls, are coming to She Knows Arsenal. You guys are going to be able to literally on video talk smack. And I cannot wait because some of you guys are always in the chat giving it. You better get on that video. You better get on that video and come with chest. I want to see you guys come with your best takes. I want to see you guys come with really good questions. It's your show just as much as mine. I just feel like it's going to help the community so much, like and subscribe on your way out. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the daily download and our watch along. Bye, guys.